Hello, it's Pauline, the PR and Parliamentary Officer here at OATA. This is another one of my videos where I just wanted to show you some of the documents that we produce on behalf of members, just to try and show the work that we do so that people have a greater understanding about what OATA as a trade association is doing on behalf of its members and also for the industry. So some of the documents here are not documents that members and the industry may have seen particularly, because these are some documents that we have produced that we have taken to Parliament, and we use it as part of our work representing the industry. So, for example, this one here, our Positive About Pets leaflet, this is something that we have done for probably about a decade, produced this document in conjunction with other organisations. And this is something that we've used around general elections. Quite a few of the last general elections that we've had, probably over the last decade. And this was produced really as a way of showing that what we wanted to do was to get prospective parliamentary candidates to understand that when they're out campaigning and they're knocking on doors, when those people answer the door, those constituents are probably pet owners. And so what we wanted them to understand was what the pet industry, how much it's worth, how many people it employs, how much they're spending, how much tax that generates, and indeed the fact that pet ownership benefits our NHS because pets are good for our health. And we did some calculations and understood that actually, you know, if without these benefits of pet ownership, that actually income tax would have to go up by a penny in the pound. So we used it as a way of looking at different research and what research has told us about pet ownership. And then, as you always have, you have your asks at the end of it. So this is something that we've used for a long time. And it was really trying to show the benefits of all pets. And then as we've gone on, we've started to hone down perhaps and to look at certain cohorts of pets, because this was something that was produced on behalf of a coalition of trade associations and keeper organisations. And really, these were keeper organisations, as you can see, that represent what you might call as less traditional pets. In some ways, they are also those pets that can sometimes be known as exotic pets, whatever exotic pets actually means. But what we wanted to do is this show that often so-called exotic pets are targeted for positive lists, which is effectively a type of pet ban. And again, we produced this for the last general election, so a couple of years ago, which is basically talking about why there's a need for us to have a broad range of pets in our communities, because not every pet is for everyone. Some people are allergic to fur. Some people, if you're working really long hours, you perhaps don't have a garden or something like that, maybe dogs and cats aren't the best pet for you, but a tank of beautiful fish or maybe reptiles, a snake or a gecko or something like that is much more up your street. So this is, again, is something that we produced, and then we had an idea of things that we wanted politicians to actually think about when it came to legislation. So that was something that we produced. And then this is something that is our latest iteration of we've come together with a lot of organisations here to come up with what we would say is our joint manifesto around better pet keeping. One of our key asks at the moment, or the key points that we want to make, is that positive lists, permitted lists, this attempt to restrict access to certain pet animals that quite a lot of organisations, anti-pet keeping organisations, are calling for, that's not the answer. It's not the answer to restrict pet ownership. The answer is for everyone to pick the right pet for their lifestyle and care for it properly throughout its life. So what we need is better owner education. And so what we have done in this latest manifesto, which we created in time for the Scottish and Welsh elections in 2026, is basically, again, outlining our point about how prevalent these animals are, why it's good to have a broad range of pets or animals, why pet bans don't work, a little bit of information about where they've been tried elsewhere in Europe and why they haven't worked. And then you come on to your asks. So this is what you call on a manifesto will always call on political parties to do certain things. And the most obvious one here is to reject positive lists, permitted lists, and we are also suggesting that we want politicians to support the sale of animals through licensed pet shops rather than online. We would always think that pet shops are great places to buy pets because you can, particularly when it comes for fish, for example, you will see the fish and you can pick the fish that you absolutely want. You'll be speaking to pet shop staff who should be trained in the species that they sell. They have a chance to talk about the setup that you've got, all of that sort of thing, none of which happens when you buy animals online. We also think that there should be a licensing scheme for animal rescue centres. Pet shops are licensed. They have a mandatory set of standards that they have to work to, and we think the same should be, that animal rescues and sanctuaries, those sorts of things should be held to those same standards. And then lastly, we've put something in here around if you are selling online, because people do buy and sell pets online, there should be standards that you are having to meet around that. So that was something that we did fairly recently this year in 2026. And then these two documents are ones that we created for an event in the House of Lords when we were invited by the Companion Animal Sector Council, of which OATA is a member, and we were asked to come along as a member while it launched its pet know-how system, which is another great system which is worth checking out. But obviously, as a member of CASC, we wanted to come along and we set up our stand and we produced these two documents, which we handed out to the MPs and their staff who came along and any officials. And it's basically our chance to just talk about the fact that and position the fact that fish are pets too. People may not always think about fish as being pets, but we are part of the pet industry, and we wanted to raise awareness about the fact that, why they make great pets. They're good for our health. They're very safe to keep, and they also provide sustainable livelihoods in some other parts of the world when they're wild caught. And then over here, again, we're tackling the issue about positive lists and why that's not a good idea. And then here are our asks, which is around rejecting positive lists and also supporting the sale of animals through pet shops. So that was one. And then the other one we did as well. This is really about trying to show the other side of the story around wild collected fish and why actually they are good news. So we just introduce a bit of information there about wild collected fish and how it's done and why they're good. And then on this other side, again, it's about we're asking people to consider, when you're hearing this thing about exotic pets, what does that actually mean? And we also included a lot of QR codes which people can use. They can scan their smartphone camera app over it, and then there's documentaries that people can watch as well. So with all of these, I just wanted to show all of this is really important work that a trade association is doing. That's what you're paying for your membership to do, is to actually represent and talk about the good work of the industry and show the industry in perhaps a different light to the way that politicians and officials may have heard about pet fish or that sort of thing. So this is really important work that any trade association will do on behalf of its members and the industry that it represents. But it's also not necessarily the thing that all members will understand exactly what we do and how we do it. So I just wanted to introduce some of these documents so that it gives you an idea of some of the work that we're doing on your behalf.